Hopefully this video works today. Yesterday was, gosh, I look cute. But yesterday, yesterday, like the full moon, yesterday I was having terrible trouble with the internet. I'm actually surprised how well I look today. I got no sleep last night. Do you ever have one of those days when you're not right in your clothes? You don't feel right in your clothes. That's how I feel today. You know, it's a beautiful sunny night. It was the lack of sleep last night. And a lot had to do with nightmares and dreams. Now, about 6 or 7 years ago, I had a dream of martial law in Dublin. And I immediately did some sketches when I was in half awake, half asleep, in the dark, of what I saw in the dreams, and I put it up on a blog post, and I'll put it as a comment, a top comment in this article that you can look for yourself when you check it out. And at the time, I thought it was going to be like some kind of EU martial law thing. But now I'm starting to think it's something that could be something else. But I mean, it doesn't mean it's predictive. Now, do you remember when I said recently that the situation in Eastern Europe is a nothing burger, and people shouldn't worry about it? Well, it is a nothing burger, because not one of you watching this, whether you're agreeing with me or disagreeing with me, has the faintest clue what's actually going on there. The propaganda and the sensationalism and hysteria is as insane as what the Rona was when that first began. There has a precedent has been set. See, the Rona has set a precedent in lots of ways. John Waters, in his recent blog post, said that he called the Lycra crowd have started over again. These are fellas in South County Dublin. If you don't know Dublin, South County Dublin is parts of the South City along the coast, are like the home counties in England, or like the Hamptons in New York. They're very snooty, and they're full of, like, you know, people with money, or people with, like, who upper middle class, you know, snooty suburbia. And I'm not saying it's exclusive, but there's a lot of nice people there too. I have some very good friends who live in those very nice neighborhoods and have been very good to me over the years. But that's a general stereotype, and of course you do get those, like, upwardly mobile snobs there. And he was, you know, when the Rona thing was going on, he said he was never, he said something like, if a guy was approaching him in an overalls or workman's outfit, he'd say nothing. And John is very well known in Ireland, but he said some guy on a bicycle who's running past at high speed would go racist or something like that, or COVIDiot or something. Well, they went quiet as the Rona thing died down, but now they're fired up again. And he says in the article it's completely Pavlovian. They started verbally assaulting him on the streets, and it's Pavlovian. It is Pavlovian. Now the media has set a precedence with the Rona in that it now completely controls the consciousness of the normies, we call them, and the NPCs. Well, it's always controlled the NPC, because the NPC can't think, as no internal dialogue. But the normie is driven by fear and terrors of not being like everyone else in society. So they can be weaponized every so often into terror of not being just like everyone else, and how they are not like just anyone else is they apply this Pavlovian conditioning of conformity regarding the current news stuff. So that's why they're fired up. So the precedence that has been set is that it's okay for journalists to tell lies. Now, I am not believing a single word that comes out on the media now, including alt media, regarding what's going on in the Ukraine. I think we're being fed a mountain of lies. And I'll tell you why. On every level. I get a classic example, and it was just like the Rona, when that Puke O'Neill thing said that, like, one person in every household would be dead, and the media ran with it. A cover of an English paper the other day, and it wasn't a rag, it was a regular paper. And it was, if you read my book, The Amble of the Psyche, this is why I wrote this book, so you could actually, abide by this. And it was 60,000, the headline was 60,000 Russians slaughtered in the Ukraine. And then underneath that, 1/5 of the Russian army decimated in the Battle of Kiev. Now, first of all, there's videos being posted by people in Kiev all over the internet, and there's no battle going on. Life is going on as normal. So there's no battle. They make it the media has made it sound like Stalingrad is going on there. There's no videos coming out of this. Secondly, 60,000. That even made 60 fucking thousand. Jesus. You know, for a split second, I'd forgotten that the media and journalists are pathological liars. And I'd forgotten my own book, The Anvil of the Psyche, and what I put across in it. And which you can read for free, by the way, on my Substack page. And I go into the article, and then he said 1/5 of the Russian army is 60,000. You know, there's a couple of million in the Russian army, so that was off the rock. So then, shall we say, the article corrected or clarified itself as they always do, from the headline to the body text, the copy text, and it started off by saying, what's this guy doing? Oh, cute blonde. Anyway, just the nice weather brings them all out in the skimpy clothes. But it's great being heterosexual. But no offense to you shortlifters, but I'm just saying, like, and so yeah, so the body text, then the body text, read down the body text, and you see the truth is like there, and it says 60,000 casualties. Now, anything one knows about war knows that a casualty is not a death in a battle. A casualty is a soldier taken out of action, and that can be anything from being blown to bits by a cruise missile, being shot in a battle, to being in a car crash or getting the flu. You can't fight. You can't fight when you have the flu. So that's what a casualty is. Or food poisoning is a very common one. And further goes on the list, and it says 1/5 of the Russian army in Kiev. Now, see, the lies they tell you. So the average NPC normally is going, the Russians have lost 60,000. 60,000 were killed in the Battle of Kiev. When it was probably almost nothing, or a handful. And then it shows Russian military convoy wiped out by Ukrainian jet. And it shows like one armoured personnel carrier with the back opened and stuff pulled out of it. One. Not a convoy of tanks like they made it sound. And so we're getting fed a load of shit on this thing, okay? We're being told that there's a battle going on in Kiev that's like Stalingrad, and yet people from Kiev, and they're not Ukrainians, are showing videos from downtown Kiev, or Kiev, or the fuck do you want to call it now? Kiev, sorry, that's what I'm calling it. And everything's fine. But they're all the Irish middle class are fired up into a fucking frenzy, and all the normies in Ireland, and in England, they're all fired up into a frenzy, and they're going fucking bananas, and thinking there's all this shit's going on, and they haven't got a fucking clue what's going on over there. It is literally a nothing burger, because we know nothing about it. It's totally non-linear warfare, perception management that's being used to create a story and a conflict on par with Operation Barbarossa is currently taking place in Ukraine, when suddenly it seems to be a very clinical, straight-up military engagement trying to minimize civilian casualties. Now, we do know that there will be people that have died there, and it's horrible, caught in the crossfire. It happens in all wars. But it seems to me that if it was the hellhole it was, where is the video footage? There's none. There's absolutely nothing. A picture of a jet flying over a building is not proof that we're dealing with a kind of a Stalingrad situation. It's a nothing burger. And to drive that home, it means nothing in your life unless you live there, have family there, or you're dumb enough to be taken in currently, a Ukrainian family from Uganda or Pakistan into your house. It has nothing to do with you. Now, those people who say it affects the price of gas and gasoline, interestingly enough, you're just being fleeced by the oil companies, because the price of petrol on the barrels of oil on the world market is the same as it was last year. There's been very little change. You're just being fleeced. These war profiteers. And also, there's another thing. Are combat photographers and frontline journalists, are they war journalists and war correspondents? Are they also war profiteers? You never think about that one, do you? But what's the difference between a war profiteer and a combat or war correspondent? He's making money off the war. She's making money. They're profiteers of war as well. No one ever thinks about that. But anyway, so the price of oil hasn't gone up. What's gone up is they're robbing you. That's what's gone up. Regarding the gas situation, the gas is still flowing from Russia, like it always has, into Germany, the so-called country that they're enemies of, and all of Europe, with the exception of Ireland. Ireland, ironically, has its own gas. One thing we're actually self-sufficient in is we get most of our gas from the Corb field up in County Mayo, not far from here. And that was, do you remember about 5 or 6 years ago, there was these fucking greedy farmers who were trying to line their pockets with Shell, remember Shell to sea and all that? That was just greedy farmers who's rustled up some NPCs in the Green movement and Sinn Féin to support them, but they were just looking for a cut. That's all they were looking for, greedy bastards. And they were trying to make it, they were fighting for fucking Mayo and the people. Imagine if they had got their way and that gas didn't flow, and we were suddenly in a situation where Russian gas was cut off. Ironically, if the Russian gas is cut off, Ireland would be one of the few countries that can actually be okay because we have our own gas supply. But you imagine if we didn't have it, if those assholes had got their way and shut down the Corb gas field at Rossport. Interesting how that one turned out, isn't it? So that's why I never trust any protest movement. There's always somebody lining their pockets somewhere. Same with all these grifters with these Ukrainian charities. All over social media, Jesus Christ. Raise money for this and you do raise money for that. And it's all grifting. And now the CEOs and the people in that company all skim off the top. And nothing gets the people in the Ukraine. Nothing. It goes to the government there, or some agency or some shit like that. And yet all the idiots giving, I'm better than you. The Pavlovian conditioning again. I give money to you. I wear a Ukraine. I fly a Ukraine flag. I'm better than you. Now, to bring us back to more serious things, where the nothing burger could get Garnish. Because the Irish are hysterical, and Irish men are, the average Irish man today is like a 1970s hairdresser when the dryer stopped working. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God! That's the average Irish man today. And this cowardice hysteria, this drama queen that is Paddy today, has gotten very cocky surrounding the whole Ukraine thing, to the point where I would say the hatred of Russians right now in Ireland is, I've never seen that level of hatred to any other race in my life. Nobody. Not travellers, not the English. The Irish don't really hate the English. The Scots and the Welsh hate the English because they're insecure about not getting their freedom. We already have it, so we don't have that hatred. But I've never seen anything like it. And that's what drove that moron to drive. Now, this is very serious stuff now. That's what drove that moron to drive his truck through the gates of the embassy in Dublin. That moron. That was an act of war. And the Irish government were very stupid are very stupid and self-serving, as we all know. Now, Micheál Martin, the king of mediocrity, the emperor of mediocrity, the current Prime Minister of Ireland, and the Deputy Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, who'll be soon the Prime Minister again, in this weird arrangement we have. It's nothing like democracy, or freedom of vote, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Not that I believe in democracy, especially now. But Russia could hit Ireland and hit us hard. And then you would really, it would really bring it home, okay? They could launch a cruise missile from any other ships out in the Atlantic and take out any target. They could hit in the centre of the country at Lone. You could have some normie sitting in his car and alone with his mask, alone in that lone with my mask. Yes, I'm alone in that lone, drinking coffee from a flask. I look up in the sky and I see a bird that flies, but it's not. It's a Russian cruise missile heading from my ass. Yeah. Uh, so he's sitting. That's a pretty good song I just made up, but he's sitting alone in his car with a mask on him and that lone, and a fucking cruise missile lights him up like a Roman candle from the Russians. It could be done. What's Paddy going to do about it? Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing that would happen is if Russia attacked Ireland, and who knows, maybe that was my dream was about all those years ago, that the Micheál Martin, Varadkar, and all the Irish politicians, and all the journalists, and all the bureaucrats and civil servants would suddenly transfer to somewhere like London and leave us alone to suffer while they are the government in exile, this kind of shit. And, well, they leave us under the yoke of a Russian invasion. And this is why the French had no problem with the Nazis when they moved in. People slag off the French for saying there was really no resistance against the Nazis. The main reason for that was that the French army and government had left them, had abandoned them. Dunkirk, all the French army, most of them got onto the ships and boats in Dunkirk and went to England in 1940, and the de Gaulle government were operating out of London, living in posh. Why should the French be loyal to a government who fucked off and left them, to an army who fucked off and left them? So in Ireland that's what would happen, but the Irish would still be loyal to the fucking Egypts over there. Oh, they still call them by their first names. Oh, Martin and Leo, they're going to come back and save us. They're over in London living in a palace. They're going to save us. We have a government over there. They're going to come and save us. Yes, Officer Yuzensky. Yeah, this kind of thing. You wank off. Yes, sir. Oh, Jesus. Come on, lads. Leo, come and save us. Come back and save us, Leo. Come back and save us. That's what the Paddies will be like. And our army can't protect us because the governments here have made us vulnerable and unable to defend ourselves by not properly financing the military here. A very small, well-trained Russian force of probably 5,000 or 6,000 could land and take the country over tomorrow in a day, and with air support and everything like that. And there'd be nothing we could do about it. The cruise missiles would be coming from the ships, and then we'd go, sure, the European Union will protect us. Will they now? Sure they will. We voted for the Lisbon Treaty twice, even when they rejected our first vote. They love us. They love you. Everyone loves the Irish. The Germans are going to stop their supply of energy from Russia to take care of you in, Ballymagash. The EU cares about the Irish when they've saddled the Irish with the majority of the debt, of the EU debt that we didn't even accumulate. We were paying the German debt off. But they care about us, right? Don't they? They care about us. They put a little flag up somewhere, a sign. Yeah, they care about us. Sure, Joe Biden, he's an Irishman. He'll come and save us, like. The Yanks will be here in like 5 minutes to help us. They'll be here to help us. Joe Biden, when he met Pope Francis, said, I bet I'm the first Irishman you've met that isn't a drunk. Joe Biden, upon meeting Irish officials last week, said, for St. Patrick's Day, says, I'm Irish, but I'm not stupid. You actually think he would do anything to protect Ireland? Do you actually think Irish Americans would even give a fuck? We would be totally at the mercy of Putin, and he could do it very easily. And we have a government in this country that seems determined to prove to the rest of the world how much we hate the Russians. And that's what Micheál Martin's, the emperor of mediocrity, primary objective is to make sure that the Russians know that the Irish government hates them and everyone in Ireland hates them. Is that a wise move? Now listen to me, thick paddy normie, okay? Take off the mask you're wearing alone in your car and listen carefully. Do you think that's a wise move considering the fragile nature of things in the world right now? Do you really want to be attacked by Russians? While Micheál Martin finds out about it a few hours before and suddenly fucks off to England or France or some Belgium or somewhere with his entire cabinet and all the bureaucrats and all the Irish establishment to be the government in exile, while you can't get to the hospital for your wife's operation because Yuri Wankov of the Lenin of the St. Petersburg Northern Division doesn't speak a word that you can understand, and he's telling you to fuck off back home and pointing an automatic weapon at you, and you're trying to explain, my wife has a bleeding ulcer, she's dying, can I go to the hospital please? You shut up, go, I shoot. While Micheál Martin is having wine with his family and friends in exile at government. Do you think that's worth? Do you think you being whooped up into a psychotic frenzy of hating the Russians, do you think that's a price worth paying down the road? Because possibly it would happen. Oh, they're literally, this government, this empire of mediocrity that runs this country, are trying to compensate for their mediocrity by putting it up to the Russians. The Russians, as a warning to the rest of the world, could march right in here without little or no resistance. And that would shut everyone up. We'd be the easiest country to attack. We have a huge coastline. They have tons of ships, helicopters, fighter jets, cruise missiles out there in the ocean. Bang, 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 paratroopers. Bang, 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 transport planes. Bang, 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 jet fighters flying at low level, taking out anything that moves. In a few hours, troops at every street corner. Do you think that we will be an ideal target for them to shut the rest of the world up? And they wouldn't, of course, it would just be the Republic of Ireland. They wouldn't go near Northern Ireland. They don't want a conversation with the English or the British or anyone. They'll pick an easy target, us. And Paddy, with his Ukrainian mask, would find himself in a very different position then, wouldn't he? Now, I had a dream last night that Russian troops were in Fisborough in Dublin, near where I grew up. A very vivid dream and the Irish government had left and abandoned the people to become a government in exile, and that's right. The previous night I had a dream where I was going across upland bogs in Ireland, and I found people constructing underground shelters for the government and their friends and family that no one was to know about. So if anything ever went down, they'd be all underground, safe, until they could be transported to their government in exile in, the south of Spain, wherever, Bahamas. Paddy doesn't have the intelligence to think beyond the hysteria that's fed to him by RTE. We've seen that with the Rona thing. And they're all hating the Russians, and the ones who are, so it isn't, and it's also a nothing burger. There's no one here can tell me what's really going on over there. Because we just don't know. We don't have a fucking clue. And the media is just full of sensationalism, and then when you start checking into it, the so-called things it tells you are either wild extrapolations or just lies, just like it was with the Rona. You remember and I'm sure there's people dying over there, but they're not dying in their tens of thousands or millions. And we know now, it's been proven. Those of you who doubted me, who called me names, I now allow you to scatter rose petals at my feet as I saunter to victory when photographs have been released of an African family as Ukrainian refugees in Donegal. Scatter the rose petals at my feet, you morons. I await your groveling. You'll never do it because you're the same thing that makes you a stupid fuck. A stupid, arrogant fuck is the same thing that makes you a stupid fucking moron. They're both mutually inclusive. It was anyone And I don't have a magic ball. I'm not Edgar Casey. I'm not the wanking prophet or whatever. I merely observe what's going on in the world, and I've learned that there's certain things happen. I knew those middle class types would suddenly be fired up again. But the Ukraine thing, and they don't even know why, and how they could call John Waters a racist over it. He's barely even commented on it. Nothing. But it's just a as he says, a Pavlovian reaction. These people are dogs. Now you have to remember that. When you say, I'm here for the Irish people, and people say to me, are you a patriot, Thomas? No. Do you love Ireland? I absolutely do love Ireland. I'm actually in love with Ireland, to be honest with you. I'm in love with the landscape, and I'm in love with the culture. I'm in love with the history and the heritage and the beauty of the place. And I'm in love with the right kinds of Irish people. The ones who still have that Celtic song in their heart, that Gaelic song in their heart, no matter where in Ireland they come from. But I'm not fucking patriotic to this bunch of muppets. I don't feel like saving these idiots. I only care about the ones that I know and love, and I don't care about the rest. These people, I wouldn't die for Ireland. I wouldn't, not the Ireland that we have today. How about throwing your life away? No, I wouldn't even fight for it. I'm not going to fight for these fellas in lycras who wear Ukraine face masks and call people names on the street, call people racist at the drop of the hat, who are raising their non-gendered child. I'm not going to fight for them. I want the Russians to destroy them. I want them to be destroyed. If the Russians invade, but unfortunately they won't get it because they'll all be off running off to their holiday homes in the south of Spain and Portugal and stuff like that. But people like me and the ordinary Irish person will be left here to deal with it. So why should I die for them? Why should I fight for them? Why should I be proud of them? I was the same, I'm sure, in any country. I mean, I saw something in England. Somebody posted an Instagram video. I shared it with some of my friends in England yesterday, of 3 people stopping at a red light. You know the red lights they put up for temporary construction on roads where the red light comes on and then it counts down like 90 seconds before the light changes to a one-way system. They were stopped. There was 3 young guys, and they stopped at the pavement when the light went red. Not on the road. They were walking on the pavement beside the road. And when the light went green, they started walking again. Filmed by a truck driver, and he was laughing his head off. He said, "I can't believe it." Now that's the. Do you remember those of you slavering upon my testicles right now for being morons? Okay, sucking the sweat off my testicles right now for being morons who took issue with me when I said that there was a excess protein on the brain seems to be is showing up because of a result of the needlecraft. And then you didn't believe me. You called me names. And then I produced the video and the documents from Germany. And then your only purpose in life from that point on was to be in the shadow of my testicles as the 2 gods, the yin and yang of your groveling for the rest of all eternity. As they wobbled between my legs, and you pondered them as infallible gods above you for your ignorance. And I'm like Ursula Andress without a vagina in that movie. Yeah, she who will not be obeyed. I'm very cordial, friendly, engaging, and erudite. But if I say something, if you in any way accuse me of being a liar or I made it up, I will smote you. Just like my pagan ancestors, I have none of this belief that, we're all God's children and, you love your enemies and turn to the cheek. No, you will be quaking in the glory that is my sweaty testicles, cascading from side to side above you like angels from the Old Testament. Be not afraid. Love yous all. Bye.